institutional traders. And I'll see you soon. Bye.
Easter to you. We hope to see you back soon.
Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to keep the ball rolling. We mentioned at the top of the show we had 7 expert traders of the highest caliber, and you're going to love our next presenter who started his career studying music at the Berklee College of Music at the Boston Conservatory. He began trading stocks in 2001 and learned the art of futures trading. He's been trading over 20 years and is now considered an expert teacher and trader of the news. Here to present how to profit on big company earnings reports trading futures is Mr. Lee Goldstein of 10minutetrades.com. Welcome back to the show, Lee.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me. And I want to say hello to everybody out there. I assume you can hear me and see my screens.
Loud and clear, brother.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's get started. We're pretty much right on time. So I just want to say hello to everyone. I'm going to do things a little bit differently today. You know, I always love listening to everybody. Traders Corner always has a great collection of people. And it's fascinating because everybody thinks they have the way to do it. And everybody does have the way to do it. And it's really true that you just have to pick the education that you want to take and trade the way that is right for your DNA. And I think that's the most important thing. You got to trade the way that fits your personality and your style. You know, if you don't like being in the market, you don't want to day trade, you want to swing trade. And that's sort of how I got into doing what we do. So I work for 10-minute trades, and the great majority of our trades are over much more quickly than 10 minutes. And when you talk about trading on a schedule, trading exactly at a moment's notice, that's what we do. So let me get started. But we're doing something special today, something that I don't think we've ever done on this in Traders Corner. It's earnings season, and we figured out a way to trade big company stock earnings with futures. I'm going to say that again because everybody gets confused. We're not trading stocks, we're trading futures. And we're going to trade big company earnings, particularly the FANG stocks, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and we have some more as well. So my name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the trading director at 10-Minute Trades. Remember, please, all the trades discussed are for educational purposes. It's possible to lose money trading futures. Make sure you don't trade money you cannot afford to lose. What we trade is called the appointment-based trading method, ABT for short. It's simple, but it's a time-based approach to the market, and there are triggers that create an appointment-based trade. What are the triggers? So for instance, a trigger might be an economic report. Let me give you an example. So this week, we traded, I'm sure everybody knows how important the CPI has been, the PPI, the producer price index. They're very inflationary oriented reports or inflation oriented reports. We all know the market is obsessed with inflation right now, and the market is extremely worried about how high inflation is going. So for us, that means that we know that the PPI report is going to be a big moving report. When that news is released, it's going to move the markets, and it's going to move specific markets, not every market. And we're talking futures markets. So we have a setup. When the PPI was released, we're trading the NQ futures. Our software creates a time-based range automatically. We just type in how long of a range we want, and then we're going to get pulled into the market either at the top of the range or at the bottom of the range, depending upon how the market moves. And it's the NQ futures market that we're trading. Also, in our trade room, this is the graphics that our members see in our trade room. And on the right side, I was actually testing the ES. I have a different setup, what we call a breakout setup. It's not a range, it's an immediate setup. And I was testing the ES because actually I was thinking that after all the testing I had done prior to the trade, the ES was looking like a really good possibility as well. So the news comes out at 8:30. You could see our range is being created by the software. That candle is the news already is out. The ES is already in a trade and the trade's working. Our range is finished. Our orders show up on the chart. This is a real live trade and it's now going to be over. I tried to get like $1,000 out of this trade. And because the market reversed after it hit my first two targets, I made $305 instead of 1,000. I might have been able to make a little bit more. This is a screenshot, but I did what I think is smart trade management. At the moment that I was making money in the trade, I expanded my outermost target. And you can see that target right here. I pull it down to try and get more money. And I moved my stop to break even. And what happened was the market pulled back, but it already had hit my first two targets. So I had my money in the bank. The 300 was in the bank. And I was just going for a larger profit if the market kept going in my direction. And, sometimes it doesn't. So I had to suffer through a $300 win. No shame or pain any in that at all. And my ES test, had I traded it live, I was simming the ES, I was trading the NQ live, it would have been at least a $200 winning trade. So if you come into our trading room next month, you'll see us trading on the ES on that report live as well as the NQ. So that is a high impact economic report. We made an appointment with the market at 8:30 to trade, and our orders were put into the market and we traded pretty much 6 seconds after 8:30. Another trigger might be the end of day market. We know the markets move very strongly at the end of the day. Market opens, we trade the oil open. We also trade the NQ open. Again, what could be better than making an appointment with the market rather than sitting in front of your screens 100 hours a day waiting for setups that often don't even ever take place? Sometimes you'll sit and you'll wait and nothing will happen. So end of day moves, opening moves, speakers, people that are tweeting, all those things can create opportunities. I like end of day and openings the best because we know the time that those trades are going to take place. And then trigger category 3 is the reason we're here today. Big company earnings reports. We know it's a fact that big companies, when they release their earnings, they are going to move markets. Now, they're going to move the stock price probably. When Apple releases their earnings, Apple stock is going to move. And also something that we discovered, and we're not the only people that know this, I'm sure other people discovered it. We were actually looking at other trades and we noticed that when we were doing our late afternoon trades, the NQ was moving in coordination with earnings reports. And this is years ago. So years ago, I thought to myself, well, you know what? I should be able to trade Netflix, when the earnings come out with the NQ. So let me just show you for fun. I think I have some strange old Netflix screens that I can show you what our screens looked like. They were very different than the way they look now. So if you go back to let me go back to 2019. It'll take me 1 second to just pull up the screens and I'll show you what our trading screens look like because it's changed. Remember, this is something we discovered and then we've been changing it and I'll get into that as time goes by. These are real live markets from 2019. And you could see we had all these zones on the market. We had indicators. We had different charts, a clock. I mean, all sorts of things. The charts were not so busy, really not that bad. Not what I call Christmas tree charts, but definitely more complicated than what we're using now. I think that if you look at our charts now from a very current earnings trade, the charts are cleaner. They're simpler to see, and to make out. Let me just show you what I mean. So here was a chart before an Apple trade that we recently took. Just very, very clean, much simpler looking charts. A couple of indicators, which you can't even use indicators during earnings because things happen too fast. So an earnings trade, you could have nothing on your chart and it won't matter one way or the other. This is the NQ. This was last quarter's Apple trade. And as time has gone by, we figured out a way to put the Apple chart into our platform. We trade futures. We trade using the Ninja Trader platform. And Ninja Trader has an option where if you have a multi-broker account, you can have multi-connections. So I have a futures connection on the left side of my chart, and I have the stock price, the actual stock, on the right side of my chart. The point of it is that we use tools, as many tools as possible that we've learned over time to help us to trade these big earnings reports with futures, which is it's a really different approach to trading earnings. So how can you possibly make money trading, big company earnings reports with futures? So let me show you. So just to explain how our system works, it's not really complicated. And keep in mind that if you don't use our software, you can still do this. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's going to be as easy as it is if you use our software, but you can do it. And in fact, I used to do it trying to trade stocks before I was, working here and before I was a member here. So let me give you the first and most important thing that makes up a big part of our system, and it's the bracket. So we have two main ways to trade earnings: a breakout trade and a one-click range trade. Our JOBB software is not required, but in the long run, anything you do with trading, use the best possible tools you can. Don't be cheap. Invest in your trading because it's your business. It's just like a retail store. Think of yourself like a retailer, and all of the things that you buy and have in stock are going to help you to become a better retailer, a better trader. If you have money, that's your inventory in a sense. If you have good indicators, that you could think about as investing in inventory. Our concept is one of the main ways we trade is we put a bracket above and below the current price. It's really a very simple concept. Create a bracket, let the price explode up or down, and pull you into the market. That is the way that we are trading these earnings reports. And remember, I said there were two ways to trade. You could use a breakout trade, and you could use something we call the one-click range trade. So let me show you a breakout trade. I'm just deciding which method I want to show you, which trade. Let me show you Microsoft, which we traded last quarter, and we trade Microsoft every quarter. And just give me 1 second to pull up the screen. So here's Microsoft. First thing that you do when you trade with us, we teach you, put the orders on the chart. This is a ballpark. Here's the price of Microsoft. This shows you where your orders are going to show up when you get ready to trade. We're about 5 minutes before Microsoft is going to release their earnings. Now, I showed you before a couple of things. I showed you triggers for trades. Big financial reports like GDP, CPI, PPI, they're different than earnings in that a CPI report has a centralized release. It comes out at the same time every month or every week, like the oil and gas inventory reports. And you can very much count on the reliability of the time that those reports are released. So for a company that trades the way we do, we trade on a schedule. We make an appointment with the market. I'm going to make an appointment with the natural gas market every Thursday at 10:30, and I know that I can count on that natural gas report. It comes out like clockwork. Earnings are different. Although we have learned a lot about trading earnings, and we've had some really good setups that we've been able to have the time in advance. And that's something that, again, all of the educators here explain how if you let them educate you, they will help you to trade better. Well, if you let me educate you on trading earnings, I promise you, I'm going to help you understand more and more every quarter when the earnings are going to come out so you can get ready for these earnings. I've done years of research on these stock earnings when they release their reports, because there is no centralized release for stock earnings. The companies release their earnings whenever they feel like it. So you have to do extra research to see the patterns that exist in their behavior, and that helps us to trade better. So you put your orders on the chart. I was demonstrating the one-click range trade. The concept is, as we get closer to the earnings, and when we get seconds or a minute or so before the earnings, we are going to actually physically manipulate our orders, trying to get them as close to, and this happened to be a pretty quick trade, as close to current price as possible. Now, I shortened this video just because we only have a limited time here. Imagine, if you would, that there might have been 20 seconds longer of moving your orders up and down. I'll show you a different video to explain that so you can see what I mean. But what happened here, and this was live, a real trade, orders are placed on the screen. The orders were manipulated close to the current price, and then the current price pulled us into the market, and that was a $300 trade, and the trade took place in 2 seconds. Once the orders were on the chart, right there, the orders are on the chart, then the earnings came out, pulled us into the market, hit the targets, and that was a $300 positive trade. Let me see if I can show you a little bit longer, yes I can, of what I mean by manipulating the orders. So here you can see my orders are on the chart. I'm waiting for Tesla's earnings, okay, last quarter, 2 quarters ago. It was actually January 2021. And you could see that I'm moving my orders up and down, keeping an eye on the current price. Our trade setup, called the one-click range trade, lets us put the orders on the chart and manipulate them. And then when you get filled, if you get filled, sometimes you might not even have a trade, but if you get filled, then you also have stops and targets and trailing stops if you want to use them. You have a system in place so that you don't have to do everything manually, because earning trades are quick. So you don't want to have to necessarily find your target, find your stop. You want that stuff all predefined in a manner that will help you to be as profitable as possible on the trade. So that was a one-click range trade. And then the second type of trade is a breakout trade. Remember, I showed you a bracket. Our software puts the brackets on the screen. Or if you have a trading platform like TradeStation, TradeStation has something called chart trading. It allows you to put your orders on your chart. You can simulate what we're doing. You put your orders on the chart. You can move them close to the current price, and you can get pulled into the market. So that was a breakout trade that pulled me into the market short, literally a 2-second trade that netted $1,375 right here. And this was live, last earnings period with Facebook. My orders are on the chart. I'm waiting for the news. There, the news came out. I'm done. Even before I could tell you to watch, the trade was over. And that's truthfully how fast it took place in the room. There's our orders, those little X's. one more time because it's fast. And it's going to pull me down short, hits all my targets, $1,375 profit. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make believe that every trade is a winner because that is not the case. And every single webinar, I like to be honest and give an example of a trade that didn't work. So I hope that I can find it. Give me 1 second and I'll find a trade that didn't work. And it just happens to be natural gas this week. It could be earnings. It doesn't matter what it is. So this is a trade I took, natural gas, went the wrong way. It was so fast you couldn't even see it go the wrong way, which, it doesn't really matter. If it went the wrong way, it did because it didn't hit my target. And that was a $170 losing trade. So not every trade is a winner. I wouldn't sit here and tell you that every trade is a winner, but the point of trading, the point of having a good educator is to find the best opportunities to make a solid profit. We issue trade reports when people join our service to trade our regular news reports like the CPI, the GDP reports. And those reports, the ones that we trade, are the reports that give us the best opportunity to make a profit. It's no different with earnings. We are looking for the best earnings companies and to trade that give us the best opportunity for profit. It turned out that those companies were the FANG stocks, and some additional stocks like Tesla is joining our trades this quarter, and especially with everything that's going on with Tesla right now. Again, there's so much attention being paid to Tesla. Even if it didn't move the NASDAQ market, which it does, on earnings, probably even if it didn't, this quarter it will because of the takeover that's going on, the attempted takeover. Everybody's watching Tesla. Everybody's paying attention. And everybody pays attention to that stock anyway. It's a very volatile stock, and it will move on earnings. That you could count on. Another very interesting breakout trade, one more news trade, because I think it's very important. I want to show you that we have tremendous winning trades that all of this has flowed from. In other words, we would not have our earnings trades if we didn't have our news trades. In other words, our normal breakout news trades like quarterly earnings, for instance. We trade the grains on a quarterly earnings report. Our software puts a breakout on the chart, the two orders above and below the price of corn. This was, I think it was 2 quarters ago, quarterly earnings, an awesome trade. Here's the trade, I'm in the mark, waiting to get filled. And again, it's like a 4-second trade. That was a $2,000 grain report. Quarterly grains, trading a breakout, a beautiful trade. Now look, it's like, is everybody going to have a $2,000 trade? No, because it depends the size. How many contracts did you trade? Now, I didn't trade anywhere near 10 contracts on that trade. If you get a very big move, I think I traded 5 contracts on that trade. So, an average person can trade a trade like that. I had $20,000 in my futures account to trade that report. I had defined risk. I could have lost $800 to $1,000 on that trade, and I was looking for a profit of $1,500 or more on that trade. So my risk is defined as it could possibly be, and my profit and my targets and my stop are always predefined, and that is also true with earnings. You want to at least have an idea what's going to happen. So again, Tesla is going to be one of our trades for this coming quarter. Netflix, and we have a very special treat that we're going to offer today. Netflix is coming up Tuesday, and let me just show you a Netflix trade we took, a real earnings trade. And you can tell, how do you tell that I'm not making it up? One way is, you could see my real account number, okay, in my Ninja Trader screen. And that really tells you the truth that I can't be faking this. That's a real account. It's real orders. And anyone that trades with Ninja Trader, obviously they know I'm telling the truth. So Netflix, I'm waiting for the earnings. This was a fairly recent Netflix trade, manipulating my orders. The earnings come out. I had very small targets that month. I'm not really sure why. I don't remember. And that was $185. It was about a 5-second trade. But understand, I was manipulating the orders for about 25 seconds. Okay, so the one-click range trade setup put my orders on the screen. I'm then manually manipulating my orders. When I get filled by the market, the software then takes over, puts my targets on the screen right there. My stop is on the screen. I was pulled in short, so the stop is above. I didn't have to do anything, okay? Everything automatically ended the trade, except if you notice, I did physically move my stop to break even plus a couple of ticks. You can also automate that, but I wanted to show that sometimes in a trade you do have time to move your stops. Sometimes you don't. Your targets will get hit so fast that it'll just give you a profit, or sometimes it'll take you out of the market too. So that was a recent Netflix earning trade, and we've had many recent trades that have gone very well. Facebook is a recent. I think I have the screen. Do I have the screen for Netflix? I guess I don't. I thought I did. So Netflix, I showed you the 2019 screens. Again, compared to our current screens, much clearer, much easier to follow and understand. And the point of that is because how many times have you signed up with an educator and then you got into their trade room and the charts were so complicated, you didn't know what to do. You thought you were looking at spaghetti, and no matter how much time you spent, you just couldn't get it going because it was too confusing. I myself, I'm just like everybody else in this room. I'm no different from you all. I'm a regular person. I'm nobody special. I happen to have been doing this probably longer than you when it comes to news and earnings. That's the only thing that sets me apart, is the effort and learning that I put into doing this. And the beauty of that is it is possible for anybody to succeed if you're willing to put in the time and the effort. Learn the proper ways to do things. Fund your account the proper way. You want to think positive. It's all learning the right way to do things. And yes, we do sometimes trade the ES Mini, but not for earnings, because the ES Mini is not really the best index for trading the type of earnings reports that we trade. In our regular news reports, we do trade the ES Minis. If I see questions, I'll try to answer them. Any questions that I miss, I will get at the end of this presentation. So does everybody understand what I've covered so far? We're bracketing the earnings trades on a trade. Like, for instance, the key to what I'm saying is, if we're going to trade Netflix, I'm going to trade, to go over it, the NQ futures, and you could trade the MNQ futures, which are the micros. So you can do this with a small account. You don't have to have $10,000 or $20,000 in a trading account. Micros are very manageable, especially if you're new and you want to start small with lower risk. You can do all of our earnings trades with the MNQ, which is the micro NQ. And depending on what's going on in the world and the markets, the margin might be $500 to $1,000 per contract. What that means is, how much money do you have to have in your account to be able to trade one contract? That's what they mean by margin, or a simple explanation of margin. In other words, if you have $50 in your account, you can't trade something that requires you to have $500 in your account. So micros will allow you to do this, so you don't have to be rich to learn how to trade futures and earnings. Let me keep going here. Turn off that video. So Netflix, let me see if I have any other Netflix demos. I might have one other one that I could show you if you bear with me. Half a second. What I usually do is show the same one over and over. I'm trying to avoid that today. So here is, I hope, well, let's see what happens. Let's see if this is the tiny one. One was tiny, one was not. So we'll see. It's going to take place pretty fast. Orders are going to show up on the screen. Now you're going to watch me. I'm going to manipulate my orders. This is a real live Netflix trade. You could see I got filled. It took me out. That was an $85 trade on Netflix. And you know, there's nothing wrong with making $85. If that's how the market, if that's what the market gives you that day, then that's what the market gives you. You can't go, we always say in our room, you can't go crying in a corner that you only made $85. I mean, I didn't spend even an hour in the trade room making that $85. And if you can make $85 a day, that's really not bad. I mean, the previous presenter explained how with $85 a day, you can, you know, combine all of those days into close to $2,000 a month. That is life-changing money. It's very important to understand. You don't have to make $1,000 a day. And a lot of people don't do well because they feel like they're losers if they don't immediately start out making $1,000 a day. Think small, think attainable, think so that you can create a really positive mindset for yourself so that as you move forward, you're doing better and better every week. Things get better. So that's one little Netflix trade we took. Now we're going to offer free tickets for our Netflix workshop if you'll stay and listen to the rest of my presentation. Microsoft earnings. Microsoft is not a FANG stock, but Microsoft makes up a significant portion of the NQ index. Microsoft is another stock that people are constantly looking at, constantly watching, and Microsoft is a stock that makes us money when we trade earnings. So here's a real, this was one of the examples I was showing you before. This was a real live Microsoft earnings trade. It was a positive $300 earnings trade, and the trade itself took a couple of seconds. The pre-trade took about 5 to 10 minutes, okay? Here's a screenshot of that trade. This is a 1 minute candle, okay? It's a 1 minute candle. The whole trade took place within that candle in less than a minute. That was the most recent Microsoft earnings trade also. Microsoft has been very, very tradable with earnings. Let me see. I wasn't sure if I had another Microsoft winner. So bear with me and let me see if I can show you one. I love going back to the old ones, even if it may not have been, it may not have been. Let me see. This is a different Microsoft. So this is Microsoft also in January, but a different person trading it. This was me trading Microsoft. And I had a $345 winner, and you could see that it took place very quickly. This was my trade room trade of that Microsoft winning trade. And that was a breakout trade. If you notice that the orders were placed on the chart, there was no manipulation of orders taking place. And we did enough research to feel comfortable that last quarter, we felt we knew that Microsoft was going to release their earnings at a very specific time. Bingo, we got it right, and they hit all of our targets. 3 contracts, not gigantic targets, not gigantic risk. We made $345. A lot of times I will trade in the trade room the way that you can trade. In other words, it doesn't really help anybody in the trade room if I trade 50 contracts, but no one in the room is trading 50 contracts. if the average member of our room or the average member who's free in our room and watching us, if they trade 3 to 4 contracts or 1 to 3, it helps them the most if I trade 1 to 3, because then you can see what the trade management would be like. It just helps you much more. So we're always striving to do whatever we can do to help our members the most. Obviously, we want to make as much money as possible, but prime directive, as they say in Star Trek, prime directive number 1 is helping our members trade successfully and learn how to do this. Mariano is asking, we only trade earnings and breakouts? No. So we trade, like I said before, we trade the major news results, GDP, CPI, but our methods are, we have about 5 different trade setups, Mariano. But I would say the bulk of our methods, we like the breakout the most if the market we're trading and the event allows us to trade it, because it's the most fun, it's the most profitable, it's the easiest when it works. And a breakout is the best way to trade news events because they're fantastic. A lot of times you just throw your orders on the chart and bingo, you look down and you have a great profit. But the markets are different now too, so we have a lot of different ways that we are trading. And one of the things we're, like I said, we're doing are the market opens, the NQ open, crude open, and gold opens. We trade those, and those are not, they're breakouts, but they're different types of breakout. I mean, think about it. Every trade you trade is a breakout or a breakdown, right? You're generally going to get into a trade when a level is broken. So breakout, just for us, it's also, it means putting an order on the chart instantly and then getting filled a couple of seconds later. But no, not all of our trades are earnings and not all of them are breakouts. We have quite a few different other methods. Apple, one of my all-time favorite trades, stocks to trade. Apple is the most reliable earnings trade, in my opinion. Our last Apple trade, $970 profit. This is the real earnings chart. The secret to Apple, I'm not going to give away Apple's secret today, but they are the most reliable earnings trade to trade. Something very interesting happened. Something's going on in the markets right now, to be honest. And I think it's benefiting us. And that's what's very exciting, especially about this upcoming earnings period. And Apple, about 4 months ago, the markets changed significantly. And what happened was they stopped closing the futures markets between 4:15 p.m. Eastern time and 4:30. That made an Apple earnings trade that had been impossible to trade one of the best trades in earnings, because the market's not closed anymore. You can get yourself ready to trade, and it's really made things easier. Now, something else happened also, and I'm going to get into that right now. So look, here's what I want to offer to all of you. It's a holiday. We're really excited about what's going on with this next earnings period. I don't want to sell a thing today. I don't want to sell anything. Instead, I want to invite everyone to our upcoming workshop for free. But there's a catch. If you want to come in for free, you got to do it today by midnight. Okay? So you're all invited. Our first earnings trade, our first earnings workshop, our first earning trade room for this quarter is Tuesday, April 19th, this Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. Netflix, and you're invited for free. I think you're hearing me correctly. This is true. I'm not going to ask you for money. I want you to know that our members love us. One of our members, Larry, he profited $825 on 2 Facebook trades he took in our room recently, and he wrote this: "You've helped me understand how the markets can work during news. I always like to take something and tweak it. I never knew earnings could be this interesting to trade. Before coming into 10-minute trades, I would occasionally see the NQ move substantially shortly after the 4 p.m. hour, but I never knew why. I really learned a lot from 10-minute trades." That was Larry's real trade that he sent me the screenshot. It's live. I had to take his account number out. He made $820 trading Facebook. I want you for free to join us for our first workshop, Netflix Tuesday, www.freetraderoom.com. We've only got room for 50 free signups today, www.freetraderoom.com. It's easy. I can't make it easier than that. Freetraderoom.com. We're not going to ask you for your credit card, nothing. Just register and come to our go-to webinar. Our upcoming after Netflix, we've got Tesla next Monday, Microsoft next Tuesday, Facebook Wednesday, Intel Thursday, Apple Thursday, Google next the Tuesday after that. But the beauty of it is this. This is the second earnings quarter, so I'm hoping things are changing for the better for us. We love it when all the stocks are at different days, on different days. Now, I know it says Intel and Apple are on the same day, but it doesn't matter because they're radically different times, and we know that for a fact. But every other company that we're trading is on its own day. Think about it. You don't want to trade the NQ market if Apple and Google release at exactly the same time. What if one report is good and one is bad? It will make the NQ whip around possibly. To have separate days for each report is phenomenal for us. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a great earnings session this year, this quarter. So for free, join us Netflix this coming Tuesday, www.freetraderoom.com. But you've got to sign up today. Now, I'm running out of time, so let me answer any questions. I think that was my last slide. It was. So any questions, folks? Either you're all in shock. I don't see a lot of questions today, so I'm okay to hand it over to Rob and wish everybody the happiest holidays. Thank you so much for giving me your time today, and I hope that I taught you a little bit, something got you excited to trade earnings, and I hope that I'll see you in our trade room next Tuesday at 3:30. So I'm Lee Goldstein, the trading director at 10-Minute Trades, and I want to thank you for joining up with me today.
Lee!